Welcome back to the deep dive. This is the Study Shelf, where we
Oh,
talk books to help you get a good overview.
yeah.
Today we're diving into The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, The Great Gatsby.
And I've got to say, I'm already feeling a little jazz agey.
A book that really embodies those roaring 20s, but also a story that whispers timeless truths about
Mhm.
love, ambition, and the illusion of the American dream.
Yeah, and I think what makes this book so captivating
Yeah.
is how Fitzgerald pulls us into this world through the eyes of
Yeah.
Nick
Yeah.
Carraway.
Yeah.
He's not just our narrator, he's like a fly on the
Oh,
wall
yeah.
at these crazy parties, just watching everything unfold.
And that's where it gets really interesting. Nick himself admits to being a bit of an unreliable narrator. I mean, he's drawn to the glamour, but simultaneously repelled by the moral decay he sees
Yeah,
simmering beneath the surface.
it's true.
This tension, this internal conflict within Nick, pulls us readers right into the heart of the story's moral complexities.
It's like we're experiencing everything right alongside Nick, questioning what's real, what's a facade, and ultimately, who are these people?
Right.
But let's talk about the man who throws those legendary parties.
Yes.
The enigmatic J. Gatsby. We know he's ridiculously wealthy,
Right.
but there's this air of mystery around him.
Gatsby is almost a myth, a self-made millionaire who seemingly emerged from thin air. He embodies the allure of the American dream,
Right.
the rags to riches story that captivates our imaginations. But
Yeah.
Fitzgerald digs deeper, asking, is this dream attainable? Or is it a carefully
Right.
constructed illusion, ultimately leading to disillusionment?
And to add to that, his entire life revolves around winning back his lost love, Daisy Buchanan. Like he built this whole empire of wealth and extravagance
Oh,
just to
absolutely.
get her attention.
Gatsby's love for Daisy, while intense, is built on an idealized vision of the past. He's clinging to a memory, a time when he believes things were perfect. This raises an important question for us as readers. Can we ever truly recapture the past? Or are we chasing a ghost?
They can never be caught.
It makes you wonder if Gatsby is really in love with Daisy or the idea of her.
Yeah.
And then there's Daisy herself, beautiful, charming, wealthy, the ultimate golden girl.
Daisy is a fascinating character because she represents both the allure and the emptiness of wealth and privilege.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald gives us these subtle hints about her disillusionment. Remember that line where she says she hopes her daughter will be a beautiful little fool?
Yeah.
It's a glimpse into her cynical worldview, a realization that happiness doesn't necessarily reside in wealth and status.
It's like she's trapped in this gilded cage of her own making, surrounded by beauty but lacking any real
Right.
depth or meaning. And then we have her husband, Tom Buchanan, who represents a
Yeah.
completely different side of wealth, old money, brute force, and a sense of entitlement that's almost suffocating. Tom is Gatsby's foil in many ways. He represents the established order, a world where wealth equals power. And he feels threatened by Gatsby's new money and his audacity to pursue Daisy. It's like a clash between the old and the new, a battle for dominance in a world where social status is everything.
Their confrontations are electric, filled with this unspoken tension
Wow.
that you can practically feel sizzling off the page.
Oh, yeah.
But Fitzgerald doesn't just focus on the glitz and glamour. He juxtaposes this world with the stark reality of the Valley of Ashes,
Right.
a desolate wasteland that symbolizes the moral decay hidden beneath the surface of the Roaring Twenties.
The Valley of Ashes is a visual representation of the consequences of this reckless pursuit of wealth and pleasure. It's where we meet characters like George and Myrtle Wilson, whose lives are directly impacted by the carelessness of the wealthy elite. And looming over this desolate landscape are the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, this haunting billboard,
Right.
that some characters interpret as a symbol of Grat's judgment.
Yeah, it adds this layer of creepiness, almost like a reminder that even in the midst of all this revelry,
Yeah.
there's a price to be paid for the choices we make.
Exactly. The Valley of Ashes serves as a stark reminder that beneath the shimmering surface of the Jazz Age, there's a darker reality that can't be ignored. It forces us to confront the moral complexities of a society obsessed with wealth and status and the potential for destruction that comes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's fascinating about Gatsby is that he's almost an invention, a carefully constructed persona. He was born James Gatz, a young man from humble beginnings who reinvented himself
Oh, wow.
to fit this idealized image he had.
It's like he willed himself into becoming Jay Gatsby, the millionaire, the party host, the man who could seemingly have it all. But what drove him to go to such lengths?
It all goes back to Daisy. He met her when he was a young soldier, just James Gatz, with no fortune and no prospects.
Yeah.
He was captivated by her, but he knew he couldn't offer her the life she was accustomed to.
Right? So he set out to become the man he thought she deserved. It's like a classic tale of ambition fueled by love, but also this deep-seated insecurity about his social standing.
Yes, and this insecurity is key to understanding Gatsby's motivations. He believed that by acquiring wealth and status, he could erase his past and finally be worthy of Daisy's love.
But can you ever truly erase the past? It feels like Gatsby's trying to build his future on a foundation that's inherently flawed.
Hmm.
It's as if he's trying to buy his way into a world that might never truly accept him.
And that's the tragedy of Gatsby's story. He believes that by recreating the circumstances of their first meeting, he can win Daisy back. He throws these lavish parties hoping to attract her attention to recapture that spark they once shared.
But it's been years since they last met. People change, they evolve. It's almost like Gatsby is clinging to a fantasy, a version of Daisy that may no longer exist.
Precisely, Fitzgerald is exploring this idea of an idealized past, questioning whether it's possible to recapture something that's gone. He's showing us the danger of clinging to memories, how they can distort our perception of reality and prevent us from moving forward.
And it's not just the past that Gatsby's trying to control. There's also this sense that he's trying to orchestrate every aspect of his present to create this perfect image of himself.
That's a great point. There's this carefully crafted facade that Gatsby presents to the world, but there are hints of something darker lurking beneath the surface. Remember Meyer Wolfsham, the man with the human molar cufflink?
Oh yeah, he was creepy. He claimed to have made Gatsby, hinting at some shady business dealings, possibly even ties to organized crime.
Exactly. Fitzgerald leaves it open to interpretation, but there's this underlying tension between Gatsby's outward charm and ambition and this suggestion of a less savory past.
It makes you question whether Gatsby's pursuit of the American dream is truly noble or driven by something more sinister. Is he just a lovesick romantic, or is he using Daisy as a means to an end?
It's this complexity that makes Gatsby such a compelling character. He's both sympathetic and morally ambiguous, and Fitzgerald doesn't offer any easy answers. It's up to us as readers to grapple with these contradictions and form our own conclusions.
And then everything comes to a head in that sweltering hotel room in New York City. The tension that's been building throughout the story finally explodes.
That scene is pivotal. Tom confronts Gatsby about his obsession with Daisy exposing his past in front of everyone. Daisy is caught in the middle, torn between her husband and this romanticized vision of a past love she can never reclaim.
It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. You know it's going to be bad, but you can't look away.
And it's in this moment that Gatsby's carefully constructed world begins to crumble. He's stripped bare, his illusions shattered. He's no longer Jay Gatsby, the self-made millionaire, but just James Gatz, a man who desperately wanted to belong, but ultimately doesn't fit in.
So what happens next? Does Gatsby finally give up on Daisy?
That's where things take a tragic turn, and we'll delve into those events in the final part of our deep dive.
I can't wait to hear what happens, but I already have a feeling it's not going to end well. So we left off with Gatsby completely heartbroken and his world falling apart after that confrontation in the Plaza Hotel.
Yeah, and things just spiral from there.
Yeah, what happens next?
Well, we have the tragic incident with Myrtle Wilson.
Right, Myrtle, Tom's mistress.
Yes, she was so desperate to escape her life in the Valley of Ashes. She really saw Tom as her ticket out.
And she was the one who ran out into the road thinking Gatsby's car was Tom's, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
A terrible miscalculation fueled by her own
And
desires.
wasn't it Daisy who was actually driving?
It was. Daisy was behind the wheel, and Myrtle was killed instantly.
Oh gosh, it's all coming back to me now.
It's a moment of pure chaos, and
Yeah.
Daisy drives away in shock.
And that's when Gatsby steps in and says he was driving to protect Daisy.
Exactly. He's so blinded by his love for her that he takes the blame even though he wasn't driving.
That's heavy. What a sacrifice.
It really shows how much he loves her.
But what about Myrtle's husband?
George. Well, George is consumed by grief and becomes obsessed with finding the driver of the death car.
The newspapers called it that.
Yeah. He's completely lost in his desire for revenge.
And that's when Tom tells George that Gatsby was driving. Right?
He does. He throws Gatsby under the bus, even though he knows Daisy was driving.
Such a cowardly move.
Tom is more concerned with his own reputation than with the truth.
So what happens to Gatsby?
George tracks Gatsby down and shoots him dead.
Oh my God.
It's a senseless act of violence that ends both their lives.
That's so sad.
And Daisy?
Daisy and Tom, they just disappear. They run away from the consequences of their actions.
They leave West Egg behind like Gatsby meant nothing to them.
It's a harsh reminder of the carelessness and moral emptiness of the wealthy elite.
Wow. The Great Gatsby is quite a story, a real roller coaster of emotions.
It really is. It makes you think about the allure and the danger of the American dream,
Yeah, and how our past can shape our present.
and how clinging to illusions can lead to devastating consequences. Well, thank you so much for this deep dive into The Great Gatsby. I feel like I understand it so much better now.
It's a book that stays with you, and I encourage everyone to read it for themselves.
It's definitely going on my reading list. And that's it for this episode of The Study Shelf. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a captivating book. Until then, happy reading.